Alright, this video is very simple. I am about to share with you the 20 things that surprised me after having spent 3 weeks in the Philippines. But before we start, maligayang pagbabalik sa aking channel. Ako po si Ovela. I'm a sound engineer, beatmaker, and content creator. And with that being said, let's get to it. So, the first thing that I noticed when I was in the province, but also in Manila. At first, I thought this was just a thing that they do in the province. So, what I'm talking about here is I noticed men, specifically men with towels under their shirt in the back of their neck. I was like, why are they doing this? What's going on? I don't get it. So the first thing that came to mind was, okay, they're probably doing it because it's very hot. But I don't see how a towel under your shirt behind your neck is gonna help out with the heat. You know, so that's the first thing that I noticed. And please, if you have an explanation for it, don't hesitate to tell me in the comments section below. The second thing that surprised me and that I noticed in the Philippines is the amount of scooters in the country. So many scooters. I feel like there are more scooters than actual cars in the Philippines. And it makes sense, and I think I would have been shocked if I haven't been to Vietnam before the Philippines, because in Vietnam it's excessive. The amount of scooters and bike is insane, and I believe it's more than in the Philippines. So when I went to the Philippines, I was still very surprised, but I wasn't shocked anymore because Vietnamese people use bikes and scooters so much, so much. Basically, it's like ants on the streets, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, there is that, but also as I am walking, you know, in BGC or Makati or anywhere, right? I try to cross the street and it's funny. You see the scooter coming from far away and you're like, okay, I can cross the street and I'm pretty sure the scooter is not gonna have time to get to me, right? Wrong. The scooter somehow manages to get to you super quickly and somehow surpass you and get ahead of you. You know, in your mind, you're like, no, I can be faster than the scooter, but you are so wrong. The scooters are faster than you and somehow they can manage to get ahead of you. You're like, no, I can get to the other side of the street, you know, before the scooter. No, they will surpass you. They will be faster than you, you know? And it frustrates me. I don't know why. Like, it's not dangerous or anything like that, right? Like, they're not gonna bump into you or hit you or run into you. But somehow, they are faster than you and it just frustrates me. I don't know why. The third thing that I noticed, but this is specific to the province, are power outages, okay? It happens 2 to 3 times a day, and as soon as it happens, you hear the power generator kick in, and it can be a little frustrating, right? Especially if it happens during nighttime, not nighttime, but like evening time when you're actually using the power and you know, your electronics and everything, and all of a sudden, pew, everything goes dark. Or when it happens when you're like, I don't know, on your scooter or just walking on like the main street of one of the provinces, like General Luna, you know, in Siargao, and all of a sudden all of the lights in the stores go off, right? And you're like, yep, another power outage. But luckily it does not last too long, you know. It's not like 2 hours of no electricity. Usually it's like 10-15 minutes tops. So that's another thing that I noticed in the Philippines. But in the city, so in Manila, I have not noticed any power outages, and that's very encouraging, you know, for me. I'm like, okay, if I move to the Philippines and live in Manila, I'm not gonna suffer through power outages, you know, because my job depends on electricity and the internet. So there you go. The fourth thing that I noticed in the Philippines is the fact that waiters, as soon as you give them the money, you know, to pay your bill, they mention or say the amount that you gave them very loudly, aloud, you know, they say it like, oh, okay, I received 3,000 pesos. I thought that was so strange because before the Philippines, I visited Japan and Vietnam, and they don't do that. But in the Philippines, they're like, oh, okay, I received 3,000 pesos. And then when they come back with the change, I think they also, you know, tell you aloud the amount that you are receiving. You know, that I thought that was very interesting. The fifth thing that I noticed is the fact that most Grab drivers do not want to chat. And I think this is specific to foreigners, okay, because they assume that foreigners only speak a foreign language, so they don't even bother speaking to foreigners. I'm pretty sure that with Filipinos, they talk to them no problem, you know. But in my case, I think only 2 Grab drivers took the time to actually talk to me, you know, that were curious. But as soon as I started like using some Tagalog with them, that's when they really opened up and they were like super surprised, you know. Shout out to those Grab drivers. But I get it. I get the fact that they just want to do their job and they don't want to bother with you know, chatting with people that they drive around, because it can also be risky, you know. You're afraid to say the wrong thing, and because on like Grab apps or like Uber apps, you know, you have to rate your driver, you know, and they don't want to get a bad rate or reputation. So it makes complete sense, you know. And of course, like this is another just between parentheses, I have noticed that most Grab drivers listen to OPM music, and usually old school OPM music, and some of them even sing to it and hum to it, and they're actually pretty good. There you go. The sixth thing that I noticed is that Filipinos are very hard workers, and don't get me wrong, this is a wonderful thing, you know, like they don't have any time to waste. They don't even have time to be friendly. So that kind of shocked me, because after having reacted to so many like Filipino content throughout the years, I was expecting Filipinos to be more friendly, you know, when you approach them or when you enter a store or whatever. And I'm not saying that they're not, but the sensation that I got was work first, okay? Like they're here to work. They will help you out, right, if you enter a store, but it's just for work. They're not gonna try to start like a friendly conversation or whatever. Or maybe I just didn't go to the right places. I have no idea. But that's the thing though, like I went to the provinces and I also lived 2 weeks in Manila, and I got the same vibe. It's like work, 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 which is a good thing, you know. They are very serviceable, they are very serious. But from what I could see in the videos that I reacted to, was that Filipinos were super friendly. Like they were friendly first, you know, before they were serious hard worker. And it's actually the opposite, which is not a bad thing at all. It's actually a good thing as well. Oh yes, the seventh thing that I noticed is that Filipinos walk with tiny fans in their hands. You know, I walked a lot in Manila. You know, I lived in BGC and I went to see people in BGC, so I just walked everywhere because I'm someone who enjoys walking and likes to walk everywhere when I don't have to walk like, I don't know, 2 to 3 hours, right? So I noticed a lot of Filipinos, specifically women, with tiny fans in their hands while they were walking outside, because it is definitely very hot in the Philippines, so that makes sense. The other thing that surprised me about the Philippines is that Filipinos are very quick to serve you, meaning that if you go to a restaurant, sit down, they will bring the food pretty fast. But the thing that is surprising is that they are so slow to taking your money. As soon as you decide to leave the restaurant and pay the bill, they take forever before coming and giving you the check and taking your money. And then when they take your money, you're gonna have to wait a long ass time before they bring you the change. I don't understand. Why? You don't want my money? What the hell? Like, seriously. You wanna give me food, but you don't want the money right away. I don't get it. I don't get it, because in the Western world where I live, you gotta do it fast so that the clients leave and more clients come in, and just the circle keeps going. You know what I'm saying? More business, more business, more business. In the Philippines, that was not the my experience. They just take their time, before bringing you the change or even taking your money. Yes, the thing that I noticed the most while I was in the Philippines, while conversing with Filipinos, is the fact that they use 3 words extremely often. 3 English words. It's really, and they pronounce it like that, actually, and somehow. All right, but there are also other things that they say in Tagalog, and it's like joke lang, they like to put lang behind words, or na, the word na at the end of everything. You know what I'm saying? So these are the peculiar language things that I noticed in the Philippines. And of course, another thing that you noticed, and that is pretty obvious, is the fact that they don't use knives. Why don't you guys use knives? Is it seen like an aggressive thing, to use a knife? And I'm not saying everywhere, because I'm pretty sure that if you go to like a fancy restaurant, I'm pretty sure you're gonna find a knife, especially if they serve like steak, nice steak that you can actually cut with a fork and a spoon. You know what I'm saying? You will probably find a knife. But in general, there are no knives. Filipinos are really good at cutting their meat with just a fork and a spoon. They put like the fork in the meat, and they just take the spoon and just remove the meat like that. I can't do it yet, because I don't think that 2 weeks is enough for me to master that skill. But eventually, yes, you better believe it. And now that we're still in the topic of food, Filipinos eat rice for breakfast, for lunch, for dinner, anytime really. And what I've noticed as well is that they are capable of eating like heavy breakfasts. At like 7 a.m., 8 a.m., they eat some greasy ass stuff. How do you do it? Like, seriously, how do you do it? And it's not just specific to Philippines. Even Vietnamese people do that. We would wake up early to roam, and we're just walking in the street and we see people eating hot soup in the morning at 7 a.m. What? Like, if I do that to my tongue will be like, bruh, what are you doing to me? And I do not taste anything salty and hot in the morning. The only hot thing that I can, taste is coffee or hot cocoa. That's it, okay? Yes, another fantastic thing about Filipinos is that they never come empty-handed. They always have either a gift or food, okay? And I have definitely experienced that during my meet and greet. And I do realize that it's a meet and greet, so I guess, I should be expecting something, but I don't. But yes, my beautiful friends that came to my meet and greet came with gifts, right? And food. And it's not just during the meet and greet, even when I met just regular Filipinos, you know, out there. You know, they always brought something, and I thought that was so sweet. And I have even experienced that here in Canada when I met, you know, just other Filipinos here in Canada. They have this tendency, I feel like it's part of their culture to just never come empty-handed, and it's a beautiful trait to have. Oh boy, this one. Filipinos do not like to walk too much, especially not under the heat. And I have noticed that because multiple Filipinos, when I went to meet them, they asked me, you know, they were like, so how did you come here? Did you take a Grab? Did you walk? And every time I would say, yeah, I walked, they look at me like, what? Under this heat? For 20 minutes? I'm like, yeah, what's the big deal? They don't like to walk. It's that simple. And they walk slowly. They walk so slowly. And I have noticed that in the malls, like they take their sweet ass time. And I'm not used to that. Here in Canada, people walk faster. You know, they don't have time to waste. So plus, you know, because I am taller than the average Filipinos, I'm just like walking and I see like a sea of Filipinos ahead of me, you know, walking slowly. And I'm like, okay, where can I go? Where can I try to just like, to just go random that would drive me a little bit insane, to be honest. And of course, because it is hot in the Philippines, so the other thing that I noticed is that Filipinos tend to hide in malls where the AC is free. And they like to say the AC is life. And I get it. I mean, it would be very difficult to live in the Philippines without AC. Which brings me to one of the most important things that I've noticed and that kind of surprised me / shocked me in the Philippines. And that's the weight problem. Yes, the weight problem, because I come from Canada. I live in Canada, and generally Canadians are quite healthy. And when you look at the, you know, average Canadian, they seem healthy, you know, like physically speaking, you know, they don't look overweight, they're pretty thin, you know what I'm saying? And then I went to Japan and I went to Vietnam, and Japanese people, my gosh, they are the healthiest, seriously. Even the old people walk and bike and everything. So, wow, I was very impressed by Japanese people when it comes to their health and their appearance, you know what I'm saying? And then we went to Vietnam, and even in Vietnam, I wasn't shocked or anything. I was like, yeah, they're not overweight or anything like that. They're fine. Then I get to the Philippines, and that's when I was like, whoa, what's going on? I really started noticing overweight people in the Philippines, and I was like, whew. This is reminding me of the US, because I visited the US a couple of times and I legit noticed the overweight problem that Americans have. And see, the Philippines reminded me of them, and that's not a good thing. And I think this is specific to big cities in the Philippines, because I noticed it in Manila and in Cebu. I did not visit Cebu, but I did, I was in transit in Cebu, and I even noticed it in the airport, you know what I'm saying? But in the provinces, that's not a problem. But in Manila, oh my gosh, I was like, there might just be a weight problem in the big cities in the Philippines, because the thing that I noticed is that consumerism is rampant, man, in the big cities. Like Filipinos, I feel like all they do is consume. And my theory is that there is a system that's put in place in the Philippines to drive Filipinos to consumerism, to consume and buy. So basically, excessive heat drives you to hide inside of malls for the AC, which pushes you to consume in restaurants and shops, right? Businesses, because what's inside of malls? Restaurants and businesses. So it's like a vicious cycle. So essentially what the government is doing, or maybe it's not the government, it's just the way things are in the Philippines, is taking advantage of Filipino weather to make money. That's how I saw it. Oh, one of the first things that I noticed and surprised me when I went to the Philippines is Philippine airline standards, because that was my first interaction with the Philippines and Filipinos is, the airplane. As soon as I got into the airplane, I was like, wow, Filipino stewards and stewardesses are beautiful, they're gorgeous, they look like models, they look like actors. Seriously, I was really pleasantly shocked and surprised by it. And also, I had a great experience in Filipino airlines, and I really, 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 really enjoyed Filipino snacks and sweets that they gave us in the airplane. And I thought that the people working in the plane were very nice and very respectful. Speaking of respectful, another thing that I noticed is that, yes, Filipinos in general are very respectful. They use terms like sir and ma'am all the time, so for me, they would, address me as sir all the time, and I felt very respected. Maybe not as much as in Japan, but just because Japanese people tend to bow all the time, and they go arigato gozaimasu, so you feel like the respect is something huge in Japan, but also in the Philippines. Like legit, I never felt disrespected in the Philippines. Never, ever. Especially by the security guards or the doormen, in every building. They are very nice, very respectful. They smile all the time, very pleasant, so that's definitely a positive. Yes, another thing that I noticed, not only because I'm a foreigner in the Philippines, but also because I'm a foreigner, I tend to spot foreigners in the Philippines, and I have noticed that we stand out because we are few and far in between. It makes sense, and we look very different from the typical Filipino, so we stand out. It's just the reality of things. So the last thing that I noticed, and that is the best, is that Filipinos are generally happy people even if their situation is not the best. They exude happiness whether they are successful or not. And I can tell you that for sure because I met all types of Filipinos, like I've spoken to Filipinos in the province that don't have much, right? And Filipinos in Manila that did have a lot because I was residing in BGC, right? Like the fancy neighborhood of Manila. And I'm telling you, man, they are happy people. They always have a smile on their face. And I thought that was so freaking inspiring. So there you have it. I am not sure if those were 20 things, but still those were a lot of things that I noticed. And just so you know, I started making that list in the Philippines, and I still remember as I'm walking outside in the heat, as soon as I remember something or notice something, I just would take out my phone and just write it down. And I'm like, yes, I'm gonna make a list that I'm gonna tell them about in my video. So I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you agree with me. I know that there are so many more things that I could have noticed in the Philippines, but this is what I noticed in 3 weeks. I'm pretty sure that I'm gonna update this video eventually in the future when I go back to the Philippines for much longer. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna make more videos like this with like different topics, you know what I'm saying? So don't hesitate to tell me in the comment section below if you like this type of videos, like they are straightforward. It's just talking head videos of me talking about my Filipino experience, right? Like there is no fancy editing, nothing. Maybe I will showcase some pictures, but that'll be it. So, maraming salamat po! Of course, if you found value in this video, do not hesitate to check out my other vlogging videos right here.